All right, I'm going to take you through exactly what I did to go from pretty much no running at all to running a sub 3 hour marathon in about 9 months' time. Um, just for some background context, I do have a history. I played college lacrosse, and then after that, I got into CrossFit at a pretty high level for probably 7 or 8 years. So I do have a background in strength and conditioning in that aspect, but in terms of distance running or anything like that, the most I'd ever run before starting this marathon training was probably 7 or 8 miles at the most, and I think I was sore for about a week, so really no running experience at all. Last November 2024, I was getting super stale and bored with my training. I decided I was going to try something new. I wanted to run a half marathon in 90 minutes. So I set a big goal for myself, did some research, looked at a bunch of plans. They all followed a pretty similar structure in terms of the intent of the workouts and whatnot. So a lot of them were 80% runs were done easy, zone 2, 20% of the runs were done with intensity, so like one speed workout a week and then one long run. I didn't want to give up my lifting yet, so I kind of made up my own program to follow. It was running 4 days a week and then lifting 4 to 5 days a week. It was definitely very humbling at first. I was super sore and I was running very slow, but I definitely learned a lot those first few weeks, which I'll share later in this video, my key takeaways and the things that I thought helped me the most to take me to that next level. So I'm just going to go through the exact program that I did for that first 13-week block, and again, I'll put this in the bottom so you guys can look at it. Mondays, I did an easy zone 2 run, so anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes, and I followed that up with an upper body push day, heavy, so either heavy bench, heavy dips, heavy incline, things like that. The lifting ended up being anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes of lifting after I ran on that Monday. Tuesdays was more of a full body day, so I did, for lower body, I was doing back lunges and step ups, and I was combining that with an upper body pull day, so weighted pull-ups, muscle ups, barbell rows, things like that. Wednesdays were my hard speed workout days, so these are the days where I really brought the intensity to the workout. And you'll see throughout the program, I progress each week in terms of the amount of mileage I did at my race pace, and my race pace actually ended up picking up too throughout that first 12 or 13 weeks. Each week I tried to get a little bit faster. Thursdays I was Olympic lifting, so I would follow a plyometric type warm-up, get good and warmed up because I was pretty sore from the running, and then I would either snatch or clean. I definitely dropped the weights that I was lifting at just to avoid any injury, but I was still doing the movements. And then I would do a few sets of back squats also. Again, the weight relativity dropped a bit. I definitely lost some strength throughout the first few weeks because I was so sore, but I just thought it was important for my body to at least do the exercises and feel some weight on my back. Friday was another zone 2 type run day, so anywhere from 40 to 60 minutes, and I followed that up with another upper body push-pull type of day, so more pull-ups, push-ups, bench. I would do some gymnastics then, like muscle-ups or toes to bar, things like that. Saturdays were my long run day, so I think I started, my first long run was 9 or 10 miles, and each week I would add a little bit of mileage to that, and then towards the end I ended up incorporating in some like marathon paces at those longer runs. So I felt those Saturday runs and those Wednesday runs were the most important and the most crucial in terms of becoming a better runner. And then Sundays was more of a recovery rest type of day. I would go out, maybe spin on the bike a little bit, At first, I was trying to do another day of Olympic lifting, but it was just too much volume, so I made that day more of just a recovery type day so I can get ready for another week of training. So after the 12 or 13 weeks, that took me to late January, which is when that first half marathon was. I ended up running a 1:27:30 or 40 something, so I hit my goal. I was very happy, and looking back on that, a few key takeaways, things I learned that really I felt changed my running were running to a metronome, running my zone 2 runs easy, and just the importance of proper nutrition and fueling. So firstly, running to the metronome, I noticed after a few weeks of running, I would look at the stats on my runs, and my cadence, my steps per minute, was anywhere from 162 to 168. So I was super heavy on my feet. So I just started running with a metronome playing on my phone. I would set it at like 170 or 172. And without even really trying, my entire run gait and cadence kind of transformed. The runs became a lot easier. I felt lighter and quicker on my feet. It definitely took a few runs to adjust and get used to it, but you get in a rhythm and all of a sudden you're not really like trudging along. You're more just kind of like gliding and using, I guess, less energy to cover more same amount of distance. I'm not sure the exact science of it, but I know it worked for me. So if I can give one piece of advice, that would be the biggest thing that really changed my running, was running to the metronome, because I didn't realize how slow my turnover was until I started running with the metronome. Secondly was running those zone 2 runs easier, like actually in zone 2. So I bought a strap, a heart rate monitor, and I started just paying attention to my heart rate as opposed to my pace. So the first few weeks I was headstrong on hitting a certain pace for those easy runs, because I felt like if I wasn't going fast enough, then I wasn't going to get better at running. But the more I looked into it, the more I read, you're better off running slow, training your body to cover ground at that heart rate, at that 135, 140 heart rate, as opposed to trying to hit a certain pace and your heart rate's through the roof, because then your body's just learning that, hey, this is what we do when we run. We work really hard. And again, it took a few weeks. It was super humbling, so my pace dropped 20 or 30 seconds slower on those easy zone 2 runs. But after a few weeks, my body got used to running at that lower heart rate, and each week my pace would come down a little bit more, which was pretty cool to see some progress. And then thirdly, nutrition. So at first I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of how to fuel for these runs and these workouts. And the more I read, the more research I did, I realized the importance of carbs and sodium and electrolytes for these runs. So specifically for these speed workouts and those longer runs, I essentially did like a mini carb load the day before. I would eat 500 to 700 grams of carbs, a lot of white rice, potatoes, honey, bananas, toast, things like that, things that wouldn't necessarily sit in my stomach long. And then the morning of those workouts, same thing, quick, light carbs, so toast, honey, Rice Krispies, bananas, before the run, along with like a carb and electrolyte drink, so taking in anywhere from 40 to 60 grams of like quick carbs and anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of sodium before the run. And then throughout the run, fueling, having more of the carb and electrolyte drink, another 20 to 40 grams, along with gels, like running gels. I felt that really kind of took my running to the next level, being properly fueled. It took a few weeks for my body to adjust to all the new carbs and sodium and electrolyte, but once your body adjusts, it's almost hard to go and push yourself at these intensities without the fuel. But it definitely took a few weeks of trial and error, experimenting, realizing what worked well for me, what didn't work well. And I've definitely figured out kind of what my body needs depending on what I'm going to be doing the next day and that morning. So after that half marathon, I was definitely hooked. I had the itch, I had the bug, and I knew my next goal was going to be run a sub 3 hour marathon. So I finished that marathon, the half marathon, late January. I ended up getting pretty sick in February, so I actually barely ran for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, I came back and I was kind of sticking to a similar plan to what I was doing in terms of running. So running 4 days a week and lifting 4 to 5 days a week. And as the weeks and months kind of progressed, I ended up bumping up to running 5 days a week and lifting 3 to 4 days a week, and just really being intentional with where I pushed the intensity and where I dialed it back and took things easier. So that went on for, I guess, let me think, the month of March and April. I stuck with that, running 4 days a week, lifting 4 days a week. Come May, I was starting to get a little bored, so I signed up for another half marathon. I signed up on a Friday for a half marathon the next day on a Saturday, just to see where I was at and push myself a little bit. So I showed up to run the half marathon. I got probably 7, 8, maybe 9 miles in, and I decided, okay, I feel pretty good. I'm just going to go for it and keep running and see where I'm at in terms of running the marathon. The course ended up, it was a 2-loop course, so the half marathon was just the one, and then the full marathon guys were running 2. So when I got to the halfway point, I just said, I'm just going to keep going and see where I'm at. I definitely experienced hitting the wall for the first time in my life. So I got to mile 20. I was on pace to run like a 3-hour marathon, and I got to mile 20, hit the wall, and it was the hardest 6 miles of my life. I was definitely underfueled and underprepared, obviously, because I kind of didn't really know I was going to be doing it. But I ended up running a 3:02:15 or 12, something like that. So definitely surprised myself and was pretty excited and happy with the result. Because I knew, okay, sub 3 is definitely in the cards if I just stick with this and stay consistent. So I finished up that. That was the first week of May. And then kind of just kept running throughout May and June, July. The stars never really lined up where I could sign up for a race and actually put something on the calendar and go for it. So come late August, I went out just for a run one day. My plan was to run 18 miles, and I was going to do like 6 miles hard at like a 6:40 pace, and then a mile float, 5 miles at that 6:40 or 6:45 pace, a mile float, and then another 4 miles, and then a cool down. I ended up finishing that run, and I felt good. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to get to 20 miles and see where I'm at. So I ran another 2 miles, and I finished the 20 miles in around 2 hours and 15 minutes. I could check my watch, but yeah, I knew I had 45 minutes left to run 6.2 miles, which at the time I was doing pretty regularly on my easy runs, So I decided I'm just going to keep going and go for it. So I called my wife. I had my phone with me. I called her. I said, hey, I'm gonna keep running. Can you run me out a few more gels? So I ended up running by my house. She ran out 2 or 3 more gels. Told her what I was doing. She put the kids in the car, and they ended up finding me with like 2 miles left, and it was pretty cool. I got to finish, running a marathon in under 3 hours with my wife and kids running next to me, which was really fun. It was pretty cool. We made the best of a Saturday morning unexpectedly. So yeah, I'm going to attach this plan also, that 3-hour marathon training plan, again, I was following this loosely with the intent of signing up for a race, and it just never really happened. And towards the end of it, one day I went out for a run and I felt good and just kept running and ran a 2:58:34. So that said, I'm definitely excited for my next season, 2026. I think my goal is going to be to qualify for Boston and try and run anywhere from like a 250 to 255 is going to be my goal. I'm still trying to keep up with my lifting. Right now I'm taking a little bit of break from the running just to let my body actually rest for the first time in about a year. So I'm only running right now probably 2 or 3 times a week, but I'm still incorporating in other cardio type workouts, so skiing, rowing, biking, and focusing more on heart rate and just building that base, that big engine. So come next year when it comes time to start putting in the miles on the feet, I'll be ready to go. Yeah, so this is exactly what I do in terms of running and lifting. Right now I said I'm running a little bit less, so I'm still doing cardio 4 times a week, with still having that one intense speed workout. Even if I'm not running, I'll bike hard, or I'll row hard, I'll ski hard, and then I'll do one longer workout over the weekend. Lately I've been biking for about an hour, trying to keep my heart rate right around that 135, 140, and then I'll go into a 45-minute to an hour run after, and I'll try and push the pace a little bit and see if I can hold a 645, 650 for that hour on tired legs. Yeah, so that's where I'm at. That's my plans for the next year, hopefully, is to qualify for Boston and run a sub 255 marathon. Yeah, that's it.